Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about part-time unemployment benefits. I had an interesting case and I asked Irene to help me out. Basically, I had a client who was employing somebody part-time and that person still applied for unemployment and they were getting New York State DOL letters that this is what was charged. So they were sending back time cards and they were sending back information about that employee still being employed. And Irene helped me realize that just because somebody works for that employer, but it's part-time, they could still be eligible for benefits. So basically, if you work 30 hours or fewer per week if you earn less than $504 and you had hours reduced through no fault of your own. In this case, this employee had other employment that they lost. You could still be eligible. So what happens is that each week is reviews. There has to be time cards, payroll reports. It could be 941 forms. So all this information has to be available. It could be through your payroll reporting or if you use a POS system, it could be just the time cards, but the DOL will ask to see those documents and they will review and they will kind of see how much that person is eligible for. So basically the idea is that if somebody works part-time for you, they could still be eligible and you should consult an employment attorney. And thank you, Irene, for always helping me out with that. And I know we have a lot of unemployment issues happening. And Irene, do you have any interesting cases that you could tell us about and that could be a good learning experience for all of us?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely an influx of these, whether we'll call them audits, investigations, but more and more so. And interestingly enough, I will say that they're stemming from unemployment. So it's interesting that you bring that up. So just yesterday, I was meeting with a client of ours, and he had come to us originally because there was a inquiry that came in from unemployment. Someone had filed for unemployment, and on behalf of the company, he responded back himself saying that that person was never an employee. And it was a pretty standard form that they asked for. Now, this person was still given the unemployment benefits, and that triggered a full investigation of the company because there's this assumption that if someone applies for unemployment and has at least some sort of ties to the company, that most likely they're an employee. And so this investigation went into everything from looking at bank records to tax returns. And in bank records, they can find certain 1099 like vendor checks. So they're written to specific individuals. And this type of business specifically looks for individuals daily to come in and cover. And so the industry would need, it's a hospitality industry, and so they would need employees to cover certain shifts. And you have a couple of checks here and there for some odd off numbers. So you don't have the same continuous amount like you usually would with payroll. And so in this situation, we have a client who's very confused because he thought, well, if this was payroll like, right, where someone is continuously expected to show up all the time, that's understandable. But because they don't run their business that way and instead work with temporary or shift-based employees where there's some changes all the time, but also the employees switch out all the time. They didn't see that in those situations that they actually have to make sure to put them also on payroll. And then another thing that they were told that was incorrect was if the person is paid less than $600, that they could never be considered an employee. And so they actually made it a business practice to try to see if it would work out better for them to switch out more employees, which probably was so much effort on their part, searching for someone else to fill in just to not hit that $600 threshold. So as long as they didn't hit that $600 threshold and they kept this very freelance base, everyone was essentially on 1099. However, when that investigation hit, of course, looking at the bank statements, everyone was considered an employee by the work that they did. And so when they first answered the form for unemployment, unemployment triggered this investigation. So it's interesting that unemployment typically takes the position that pretty much anyone who makes that claim is probably considered an employee. You may have a hearing. There may be some questionable circumstances during which, of course, they could do an investigation themselves of the person applying. But for the most part, over the last couple of years, we've seen that there's very much a push that anyone applying is an employee. And chances are there are others like that person. And if there's no um, unemployment insurance, or if that person wasn't covered or included on payroll, since they do have access to see the person's name and social, if they weren't included there, it will trigger this investigation. So um, it's been, I say, interesting to see that progression. Obviously, I don't think that's the word my clients would use, interesting for this, because it is incredibly nerve-wracking. And it's also nerve-wracking because the form that you first receive is a one pager. And just ask very simple questions. Did this person work for you? And if so, what hours, what times? And then you don't hear back for a few months. So everyone thinks that they're very much in the clear because you fill out a rather simple looking form and you don't think, well, let me go to an attorney and either start preparing already that there might be an investigation or something like that, because this looks like a easy open close situation. I'm just going to explain this person was not an employee, therefore not eligible for unemployment benefits. And for the majority of situations that we've seen, that just naturally leads to this investigation, which has been um, definitely in line with what we've been talking about now for a couple of years, which is DOL hires all the auditors, and this leads to all these audits with unemployment starting at it. But um, definitely, my recommendation would be, if anyone receives these letters, even if they look so simple, um, definitely just to make sure that they are being reviewed properly by your accountant first, to make sure that you filled in the correct information of hours and weeks worked. That can also trigger an investigation if that doesn't match what they see on their system, but also to run it by your attorney just to make sure that you're prepared of what possible next steps can come, even if the form seems super simple.
Well, thank
So if
you.
there are any, of course, if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to Jane or I. If you or your business do receive one of these forms, we're happy to jump in and help with that.
Definitely. Thank you.